What's going on? It's Suck and I'm back with a brand new video on SuperDuprTech. Now in today's video I shall be showing you what results I got when running a number of different benchmarking tests on the brand new M1 powered higher spec MacBook Air. It is also worth noting that I will be uploading a number of different videos with all of these new Macs that Apple has just released that are powered using the new M1 system on a chip. And if you are intrigued to find out how these machines perform when throwing a few games at them, then be sure to subscribe, clicking the bell icon to be notified of when those go live. But without any further ado, let's hit the titles. The first benchmarking application that I ran on this MacBook Air was GeekBench 4, which was also ran through Rosetta 2, translating it to run on the Apple M1 chip. Now GeekBench gives scores for both single and multi-threaded tasks, and after these have been performed, it will then give a score based on its performance and the time taken to complete that task. Now on the single core side of things, I got a score of 5,735, whereas I got a multi-core score of 22,783. Now once again, using GeekBench 4, I ran their compute test to see how well the OpenGL engine ran through GeekBench, and as you can see with this test, I got a score of 71,812. The next test that I ran was once again from GeekBench's compute lineup of tests, this time testing how well the Metal engine ran on this MacBook Air. Now with this I got a score of 61,078. The next benchmarking application that I ran on this MacBook Air was GeekBench 5, which also ran through Rosetta 2, translating this piece of software to run on the Apple M1 chip. As we saw with GeekBench 4, GeekBench 5 will give scores based on single and multi-threaded performance after completing a set lineup of tasks. Now on the single core side of things, I got a score of 1,297, and on the multi-core side of things, I got a higher score of 5,711. And as I had done previously, I ran the compute test this time from GeekBench 5, starting off with the OpenGL test. I got a score of 14,253, and when running the exact same test, but this time designed to test out how well the Metal engine ran on Rosetta through GeekBench 5, I got a score of 18,999, so pretty much 19,000. I then chose to download GeekBench 5 through the App Store, and this time have it run directly on macOS, not being translated through Rosetta 2. Now there is an Intel CPU test that I can do on this, and with this I got a single core score of 1,308 and a multi-core score of 5,703. I then ran GeekBench 5's CPU test directly on the M1 CPU. Now with this I got a single core score of 1,714 and a multi-core score of 7,329. It's quite incredible considering that this machine does not have a fan. I then ran the OpenGL compute test on GeekBench 5 once again, directly running on macOS, and got a score of 18,001. I then ran the second compute test, this time designed to test out how well the Metal engine ran on macOS on the M1 processor through GeekBench 5, and got a score of 20,398. The next test that I ran on this MacBook Air was GFX Bench Metal. Now this was run directly through macOS, not needing the translation of Rosetta 2 to assist. Now with GFX Bench, it runs a number of different tests which vary from both higher and lower levels of intensity. Now in the interest of saving time, I have calculated the average for these results, but of course I will show you each individual result. Now the average I got for the higher intensive tasks was 173.23 frames per second, and for the lower I got an average of 165.46 frames per second. When this MacBook Air was shown off by Apple, they did mention that it had faster SSD performance, so I then chose to run the Blackmagic disk speed test. Now although this was run through Rosetta, there shouldn't be much of a difference had this been run directly on the Apple Silicon itself. Anyway, on this MacBook Air, I got read speeds of 2635 megabytes per second and write speeds of 2596 megabytes per second. Next up we have NovaBench. Now NovaBench, just like the disk speed test, was also being ran through Rosetta. Now NovaBench is a good general benchmark as it tests not only the CPU and GPU performance, but also how well the storage and system memory performs. Now with this test, I got a score of 2187. I then chose to do a network speed test and got download speeds of around 199 megabits per second and an upload speed of around 20.2 megabits per second. The next benchmarking application that I ran on this MacBook Air was CineBench R23. Now this was being run directly through macOS, not needing the support of Rosetta 2. Now CineBench is a good benchmarking program as it tests each individual thread and gives a score similarly to how GeekBench gives its scores based on time taken to complete a task. Now the score that I got for the multi-core side of things was 7103. And when it came to testing out how well it performed when using just one of those 8 CPU cores, I got a score of 1488. Now coincidentally, this will give us a ratio of 4.77. I did a timed export with Final Cut Pro running through macOS, exporting a 5-minute 24-second video file to H.264 at both Full HD 1920 by 1080 and 4K UHD 3840 by 2160. Now it is also worth noting that with this test I did have background rendering turned off. Now as you would expect, the HD export came in much faster at around 50 seconds, whereas the 4K project took slightly longer at around 4 minutes and 23 seconds to complete. The last series of tests that I performed on this MacBook Air were performed using the help of Rosetta 2 to translate it to run on the Apple M1 system on a chip. Now, so one of the last benchmarking programs that I ran on this machine came from Untitled benchmarking tools, being their Heaven benchmarking test. Now with this I got a score of 2053 and a frame rate of 81.5 frames per second. Once again from Untitled benchmarking tools, the last test that I performed was the Valley test, which performs a similar set of tests to the previous one that we've just seen. Now with this I got a score of 3150 with an average frame rate of 75.3 frames per second. So that'll be it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to hit the thumbs up button, and if you are new around here, then be sure to subscribe clicking the bell icon to be notified of when any of my new videos go live. Also, if you have got any questions with anything you've seen in this video, then be sure to leave them down below in the comment section, or alternatively you can hit me up on my social media, links to which can of course be found down below in the video description. And while you're down there, you'll also find links to purchase this MacBook Air for the cheapest prices available, so go ahead and check those out. But once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.